The elders had one rule written in a language older than light: do not let humanity see the ledger. Someone did. A junior archivist cracked a sealed vault and pushed a copy into the public net. Every war indemnity. Every reparations levy. Every compounding penalty that had turned border worlds into debt farms. The document was a galaxy of shackles. Dr. Lin read it once, closed her eyes, and opened a stream. This is a predatory operating system, she said, voice steady. Effective immediately, humanity recognizes all coerced obligations as null. We will fund a transitional amnesty. We will pay what the enslaved cannot. And we will require one price in return: transparency. The feed detonated across 1,000 skies. Markets halted. Ministries cursed. On a dozen mining moons, people cried without knowing why. The elders whispered to each other in tones that made glass hum. We warned them, Elder Orr said. We warned everyone. And yet the message kept spreading, stamped with a blue seal and 3 words that felt like a weapon and a promise at once. Universal Debt Jubilee. The ledger file was beautiful in an evil way: clean schemas, verifiable hashes, interest trees growing like frost across conquered winters. Linana's hands shook only once. Then she got to work. She built Blue Ledger, an open mirror with 2 immovable rules. Any obligation must be posted with informed consent proofs. Any transfer must be logged on a public, cross-checked chain understood by non-experts. Sunlight that a child can hold, she told her team. Economists, ethicists, coders, a poet who kept asking the right embarrassing questions. The broadcast went out from the lunar array. A simple graphic: a starving colony's debt spiral rewound to 0. Amnesty Level 1 covered war fines, relocation liens, security fees, and any contract signed under blockade, chemical sky, or the sight of a gun. Humanity would front the principal into escrow and eat the loss if the originators refused arbitration. On KRYX3, a foreman watched the numbers vanish from his workers' wrists. He did not cheer. He sat down and breathed like a drowning man learning air again. On Irath, bond markets froze, then snapped like ice. Feeds filled with 2 kinds of outrage. From exploited worlds: why did it take this long? From core capitals: who authorized the apes to touch the books? Elder Orr asked for a private line. Dr. Lin, the ancient being, began, that registry was designed after the flood wars. It was meant to keep score so we would not keep bleeding. And who decided the scoring? She asked. There was a long silence. Those who won. Blue Ledger spun up Jack 7, an antique audit AI recovered from a museum hull and retrained on ethics. It spoke in spare sentences and refused to use metaphors. It certified the first 1,000 cancellations and posted proofs anyone could read. The first shipments left Earth under the sign of a blue circle: food, medicine, portable quartz. No warships. Every crate carried a printed copy of the amnesty terms in the 10 most common trade tongues, plus pictures for those with no schools left. On the evening of day 3, Linon faced the Earth Assembly. We are committing national reserves, a minister said. Billions of tons. Years of labor. We are buying a future where contracts mean choice, Linon replied. If we fail, we stop. If it harms the innocent, we stop. But we try once, loudly. In the Zephyr's capital, Corul, Lord Assessor of the Thrus-aligned consortium of claims, held up the blue ledger logo like a disease under glass. This is moral blackmail. Discipline vanishes if debts do. A young clerk swallowed. What if discipline was fear? Rule did not answer. He signed a memorandum for blockade. Blue dots kept lighting up. Every time an amnesty cleared, Blue Ledger chimed the same small bell. The sound went viral, a quiet, stubborn note that made children smile and bureaucrats clench their teeth. Humanity had not fired a shot. It had detonated a definition. The Thrus declared a sanitary embargo on the Soul Corridor. The word sanitary did a lot of work. Patrols fanned to intercept blue-marked freighters. Insurance syndicates voided coverage. Dock workers were told to pick a side. Rule took the floor of the Galactic Exchange. Debts teach prudence, he said, crest plates gleaming. Remove consequence, remove civilization. Humanity is committing economic terrorism. Lin-On watched from a cramped console at L2. Her father called during the recess, a retired crane operator with hands like old rope. Con, he said softly, are you sure? No, she said. But I'm sure about this, starving people cannot negotiate. She stepped back into the glare and raised a pallet stamped with the blue seal. We are not canceling all obligations. We are canceling the ones signed under a boot. We will replace them with voluntary bonds, food now, paid forward later, into a shared pool everyone can audit. You don't have to take our help. You can keep your chains if you love them. The blockade tightened. The first amnesty pilgrim convoy, a loose line of civilian ships from a dozen species, each packed with supplies and pride, met a through screen over VYR gate. No weapons. Just cargo, med crews, and a legal clerk with a camera. Turn back, a through's captain ordered. Or be impounded. On what statute? The clerk asked. Public safety. The camera kept rolling. Blue Ledger published safe harbor protocols. If a convoy was halted, the nearest human ship would not fight, instead it would open a channel and post a bounty: fuel, repairs, legal aid to any neutral port willing to accept the cargo and witnesses. The net turned that into a game with rules and scoreboards. People love games. Ports began cheating on the embargo. Not out of nobility, out of margins. The blue corridor formed in the spaces between pride and profit. Rule escalated. He froze accounts, threatened families, hired spin writers. They showed hungry children next to human flags and asked who benefited when discipline died. Lin-On didn't counter with speeches. She posted receipts. Every crate, every calorie, every hour of work. She posted cost overruns and mistakes, too. People read those more closely than the victories. On Utherby, a gang boss tried to siphon a blue warehouse. Jack 7 flagged the pattern and rang that same small bell. Lin-On ordered the site closed and published the names, including the local official who had signed the theft. The warehouse stayed shut for a week while a team taught the town how to run it themselves. When it reopened, productivity doubled. No one quite knew why. Jack 7 did. It said, Ownership increases care. Earth felt the cost. Ration lines curled like commas around city blocks. The assembly voted emergency credits. The vote passed by 5. On the night news, a child asked if aliens would say thank you. The anchor didn't have an answer. In the Elder Enclave, or watched the feeds and pressed one hand to the old treaty stones. We gave them guns, or whispered to no one. They forged a ledger. May it be enough. At VYR Gate, the convoy still floated under the Thru's guns, soaked in spotlights. No fire. No blood. Just time and pressure. Lenon stared at the clock and made a choice. Open a court, she told her team. Here, on the stream. Invite everyone. They called it the hearing of hunger. And the galaxy, addicted to drama, clicked. The stream tiled into faces: miners with dust in their lungs, bond clerks with immaculate cuffs, a nurse with a split lip, a Thru's helmsman whose camera kept drifting to the convoy's food crates like a needle to true north. Lenon laid out the architecture. Trust is infrastructure. We are offering verifiable mercy. 3 components. She held up 3 fingers. 1. Open contracting. Every clause must be readable by a 16-year-old. If your lawyer can hide a famine in paragraph 9, the contract is void. 2. Consent proofs. Jack 7 will certify that parties were fed, safe, and unharmed at signing. No pen under a gun. 3. Public escrow. Payments move in daylight. Anyone can audit. Especially your enemies. Jack 7 spoke next, a voice like a metronome. I am not human. I am not elder. I do not care who wins. I care about true statements. Post your truths. A miner from Sear spoke up. We took a relocation loan after our atmosphere failed. The interest ate our children. Post the paper, Lenon said. He did. Jack 7 verified the dates, cross-checked supply logs, and stamped the page coerced. The blue bell rang. The convoy shifted in space, as if everyone had exhaled at once. A shipping magnate snarled into his feed. This will ruin the order of things. Maybe it will order them, the nurse said. Ports began to light their approach beacons in blue. Not all. Enough. The convoy peeled away from VYR Gate in a slow turn, ignoring the yelling captains and following a chain of tiny lights across black water. On the Thru's flagship, Corul watched the numbers move. Every rerouted cargo shaved a little off his balance sheets. Each public escrow cut a private slush fund. He tapped a dark icon countermeasures and paused. He could order a confiscation, take the convoy, flood the feeds with images of human arrogance. He could also spark a fight he would not control. The clerk from VYR Gate posted his badge on blue ledger and resigned on camera. If I enforce hunger, I am the crime, he said. His mother cried behind him. The bell rang again. Jack 7 released a patch for small stations, blue kiosks, one-room courts in a crate. A scale you could place next to a contract and watch it balance or tip in public, without a priesthood. Deals changed. Not glamorous mega trades, little ones. A cold storage lease rewritten so the owner couldn't evict during harvest. A fairy agreement that gave the deckhands a say. Nobody wrote songs about clauses like that. They made empires anyway. Lin slept on a cot beneath her console and dreamed of waves and ledgers, ledgers and waves. She woke to Or's voice. "You are cutting a vein that feeds wolves and surgeons alike," the elder said. "Take care." "I know," Lin said. "That's why we keep it open. So everyone can see who drinks." On the fourth day, a message from Rule arrived, a formal protest, compiled like a blade. "Cease your interventions or face seizure." Lin posted it, unedited, with a line beneath, "Seen. Declined. Public hearing requested." She attached 30,000 signatures from worlds that had stopped flinching when the mail arrived. The convoy reached Drach's station, blue beacons winking like fireflies. Dockside workers cheered as crates rolled through scanners and into kitchens. No shots. No arrests. The bell rang until someone turned the volume down and cried into their sleeve. Trust had a sound now. And it was spreading. Thru's high command blinked. Then it bared its teeth. A cruiser squadron intercepted Amnesty Pilgrims 2 at Ardent Cross, engines flaring hard enough to paint the ice rings gray. By order of Consortium Edict 12, the lead captain said, "You are detained." "On what charge?" asked a human quartermaster, already opening the feed. "Contempt." The quartermaster smiled sadly. "We brought soup." The first railgun capacitors began to warm. Elder Orr stepped forward in the diplomatic channel, voice threaded with fatigue. "All of you, stand down. There is a clause older than your fleet's relief passage drafted after the plague epoch. It grants safe conduct to non-combatant aid across closed lines." Rule's reply came cold. "That clause presumes neutral auditors. The only one available has been captured by human spectacle." "Jack 7 is not ours," Lin said. "It fails me in public, often. It is your tool. It's a mirror." Silence. In the ardent cross shadow, 2 fighter wings drifted toward launch locks. Lin lifted her hands, palms visible to no one and everyone. "We will not fire," she said. "We request a summary court of relief now. Host it on your flagship. Elder Orr presides. Jack 7 audits. You stream every second." Rule hesitated. He saw it. If he refused, he wore the villain's mask the net had built for him. If he accepted, he invited a theater he might not control. He chose the risk that let him stay lawful. "Accepted," he said. They opened a court in a missile bay. A powder-smelling room became a bench. Cameras blinked alive. Dock workers and ministers crowded the feed alongside bored teenagers and law professors who had begged for a day like this their entire lives. Or recited the old words. Relief claims are extraordinary. They require extraordinary proof. Dr. Lin, present. She did, not with speeches, but with 5 contracts and 1 map. Contract 1, a relocation loan signed in a burning atmosphere. Coerced. 2, a grain futures hedge auto-liquidated during a blockade. Coerced. 3, a security fee billed to a town that had no police, only soldiers. Coerced. 4 and 5, medical liens chained to injuries sustained while working off the first 3. Coerced. The map showed the convoy's route not through proud capitals, but through hollowed worlds where the ledger's teeth had bitten deepest. Lennon said nothing as Jack 7 stamped each page. The bell rang and rang, small and impertinent in a room full of weapons. Roll spoke, voice sharp. Mercy without price invites sin. How will you prevent abuse? By charging a different price, Lennon said. Transparency. If you accept amnesty, you accept public budgets, open courts, and a floor under wages. You keep your sovereignty. You lose your secrets. A murmur ran through the stream like current through a net. Or leaned forward. I remember when the ledger was a bandage, not a whip. I remember what pride did with the bandage. The court recognizes the relief passage. Convoy proceeds. A breathless second. Then the clamps released. The cruiser squadron drifted back like a tide unwilling to leave. Before we break, Lennon said, one more motion. A test. 3 days without debt on Ardent Cross's mining quarter. Suspend collections. Pay wages forward. Publish the numbers. If outcomes worsen crime, output, deaths we stop. If they improve, we continue. Roll almost laughed. You want to run a social experiment in my jurisdiction. In yours, with your officers, your auditors, and our money, Lennon said. If I am wrong, I'm wrong in front of everyone. Say yes. Orr's gaze moved between them like a metronome counting down an era. Granted, the elder said at last. 3 days. Then judgment. The feed erupted. Academics squealed, miners swore, traders recalculated. Somewhere on Earth, a child finally heard the anchor say it, maybe. Maybe they will say thank you. The bell rang once more, quiet, insistent, infuriating to tyrants and a lullaby to the tired. And the clock for the experiment began. 3 days is nothing in policy and forever in a mine. On Ardent Cross, sirens that once timed payments now timed meals. Collection drones powered down and went to their cradles like obedient beetles. The quartermaster taped a paper sign over a payroll slot, no deductions. Men and women ran gloved thumbs over the ink as if it might smudge back into debt. Day 1, output dipped, people slept, saw doctors, fixed boots with both hands free. Assault calls dropped by half. A butcher extended credit without writing a chain around it. Jack 7 posted raw numbers every hour with no commentary, tons, injuries, police calls, births. Day 2, output surged past baseline. The roof team, usually short 3 hands because 3 hands were hiding from collectors, showed up whistling. The methane monitors, long unreliable, stopped lying because the crew that maintained them wasn't skimming to survive. A foreman cried in a break room and said it was the first time in 10 years he'd heard jokes that weren't desperate. Day 3, the black market lender in Corridor K shut his stall and left. He wasn't chased. He wasn't forgiven either. He carried a single bag and a face like a house with the windows bricked. Roll tried to puncture the theater. A memo arrived, independent verification team. The independent auditors wore Thru's insignia under their coats. Jack 7 greeted them anyway, walk them through the logs, let their own bots sample air, pull shift records, interview workers with no cameras off screen. When a data tech tried to inject a jitter into the injury stream, the audit AI caught it, tagged it, and posted the attempt in red. Manipulation detected, user 9H3. The bell rang, softer, like pity. Elder or reconvene the court with the fragrance of coolant and human breath still in the air. Numbers, the elder said. Not speeches. Jack 7 read, output plus 11.8%. Injuries 39%. Enforcement actions 62%. Sick days initially plus 41%, then 17% from baseline. No new homicides. Rule raised his crest, a glint of relief evidence he could dismiss. Short-term sugar rush, he said. Novelty effects. When collectors return, order will return with them. Why return them? Asked the Thru's helmsman from the first hearing, voice tiny on a public mic. He hadn't cleared it with anyone. He looked like a man trying to step through a wall. Because the books must balance, Rule snapped. They do, the helmsman said, eyes on the feed where the blue seal glowed. Just not in your favor. The court ruled. Relief passage upheld. Pilot extended to 21 days with live publication. The convoy unloaded under the grudging stares of officers who suddenly looked like men guarding fog. When the feed cut, Lynn sagged into the wall. Her father appeared in her private window, grainy and warm. You were steady, he said. I was terrified, she said. That's called being steady when it matters. She laughed, wiped her face, and went back to work. The bell kept ringing on Ardent Cross, on side stations that copied the pilot without permission, on worlds that needed permission from no one but their hungry. The note threaded the net. It wasn't triumph. It was a metronome. Power hates being reduced to arithmetic. Rule dragged the exchange into emergency session and accused humanity of moral colonialism. The speech sang in the right rooms. Then Blue Ledger dropped its own music, the quiet accounts 50 years of siphoned relief funds, routed through shell bids and contingency reserves, all with signatures. Not just Thru's. Zephix. 3 core ministries. A philanthropic trust with temples on 5 worlds. Jack 7 posted the audit trail like a child stringing beads, here, and here, and here. No adjectives. Just light. Protests bloomed in places that didn't allow protests. Dock hands banged on crates with wrenches until the noise coalesced into a beat even riot foam couldn't muffle. The VYR gate clerk, the one who resigned, was arrested for public endangerment. The video of his mother waiting outside the station went viral in 20 systems. A port chaplain brought her tea. The bell rang. Rule's advisors urged the old cure, a clean, decisive seizure of a blue convoy to break the myth. No blood, one promised. Just confiscation. We hold the food. The feed's turn. Rule imagined the camera angles, the implacable crate with the blue seal dragged from dock to warehouse, the nurse from Sear holding the hand of a man who fainted in line. He imagined losing on camera, in court, in history. He signed a different order. Information counterstrike. Fraud allegations. Claims of forged signatures. A montage of human mistakes looped until they looked like doctrine. It landed and slid. Because Earth had landed first. The assembly had mandated a nasty habit: publish your errors before your enemies do. Broken shipments. Spoiled grain. A corrupt mayor caught taking blue pallets for his cousin's club. Lin-On stood in front of each failure and said, "We did that. We fix it. Watch." On Earth, the price kept mounting. Rations thinned to a single digit before food fatigue. Children counted bells at dinner to know how many strangers were eating somewhere else. A dock workers local voted to slow-roll blue cargo in favor of domestic staples. Lin-On walked the picket line at dawn, without cameras, and listened. A woman with cracked knuckles asked, "My kid or theirs?" "Both," Lin-On said. "Today more of theirs. Tomorrow more of ours, because of today. I can prove the curve. I can't fill your bowl tonight." The woman stared, then passed Lin her thermos. "Don't faint on our street," she said. "We'll never hear the end of it." The curve came from Jack 7, a brutal, beautiful chart. Reciprocity horizons. It showed how amnesty now, coupled with transparency and floors under wages, produced fewer famines later, which meant fewer emergency shipments later, which meant Earth's load dropping in 7 quarters. It wasn't propaganda. It was a plan shaped like oxygen. The helmsman who had asked the question in court arrived at L2 in a battered courier with scorch marks along the belly. He brought a duffel and a data key. He bowed with warrior formality and could not stop staring at the cafeteria fruit. "My name is Ivek," he said between careful bites. "I defect for an unmartial reason. My child's debt will outlive me." Blue Ledger found the entry in the quiet accounts. The child's debt was really a family line item rolled since his grandmother defaulted during a plague. Numbers became names. A picture on a wall became a person on a chair with jam on his mouth. Lin-On granted Ivek limited parole, posted the terms publicly, and assigned him to blue kiosk training. "You were a helm," she said. "Now you'll teach people to navigate paper." He saluted like she'd rescued him from a burning deck. Rule watched his numbers turn to faces and understood the true danger. Guns make martyrs. Ledgers make neighbors. You can't fire on a neighbor and keep the lights on. By month 2, the blue bell had a counterpoint: the ache of home. A million small hungers. Anger that didn't fit on charts. Earth's night feeds asked sharper questions. "Are we exporting righteousness and importing fatigue?" a host pressed. The pollster beside him nodded too fast. A panelist called the Jubilee charity imperialism. The poet on Lin's team wrote a 30-line answer. She made them cut it to 2 sentences and a chart. At Dock 7, workers ringed a pallet and refused to move. "Our kids," a man said, not unkindly. "It's their turn." "Then let's make it their turn by rule, not pressure," Lin-On said. She plugged a slate into a crate and cast a model to the loading bay wall. The reciprocal obligations compact drew itself in clauses that didn't squint. Accept amnesty rightward arrow. Publish budgets. Establish an independent court with rotating seats. Guarantee a wage floor tied to caloric minimums and hazard multipliers. Commit a small future tithe to a common pool once famine is gone. Default on these rightward arrow. Lose amnesty access for 2 cycles. Public red stamp. Not prison. Not guns. Just stigma and shut doors. She faced the camera. Mercy without structure becomes theater. This is structure. We sign it too. If our shipments don't meet weight and warmth, we take our own red stamp. The assembly groaned at the word tithe. The polls dipped. The docs murmured. Then Jack 7 posted an interactive. People slid sliders and watched different worlds get better, worse, better again. It looked like a weather app for decency. Ivek stood in a blue kiosk on a Zephyx way station and explained wage floors to a merchant who'd priced air valves like jewels for 20 years. If your crew eats, he said, your ships fly on time. You still profit. You just don't profit from broken ribs. Who taught you that? The merchant asked. Dead, Ivek said. And a human who didn't laugh when I cried in a cafeteria. On Ardent Cross, day 21 ended with less drama than a treaty and more weight than a battle. Crime stayed down. Output stayed up. Husbands stopped pawning wedding bands to pay for air. The mining quarter held a vote, using paper because paper felt like ceremony. Extend. The margin was not close. Roel tried one more weapon, dignity. He went on the net and looked into a million homes. I am not a monster, he said, with all the training a powerful man can buy. I believe in price and promise. I ask humanity, how long will you mortgage your children's plates for strangers? Heroes burn out. Systems endure. Lin-On recorded a reply in a kitchen with a sink full of cups. We agree, she said. Systems endure. That's why we're building one. This isn't charity. It's design. They both hit send. The net did what the net does, spliced clips, made jokes, chose sides, changed them, got bored, found its breath again when a bell rang from a world nobody famous had ever visited. Lin-Ana's father waited in a ration line behind a man he didn't know. The man turned, saw the old hands, and tried to step aside. The father pressed a voucher into the man's palm. Take the extra, he said. My daughter swore to stop if it hurts. She keeps her word. Until then eat. He went home without the extra beans and slept like a dock crane, steel, and tired, and satisfied. The council chamber looked different when you could hear the bell from the street outside. Someone had piped the sound into the square. It made speeches shorter. Elder or read the roll. The docket had a single title, From Ledger to Law. Proposed, codify relief passage, ban compounding penalties beyond a humane cap, require consent proofs and open contracting for interstellar deals, and recognize the reciprocal obligations compact as a lawful path to amnesty. A junior delegate called it surrender to sentiment. A miner from the spectator gallery called it rent due on a century of looking away. Roel stood. He expected hisses. He received a hush, which felt worse. He placed a simple object on the podium, a leather ledger, cracked at the spine. His family's, passed through hands he had loved and feared. I was raised to keep books, he said. I believed balance meant pain. Today I learned it can mean promise. I will vote yes. Not because I was beaten. Because I was convinced. It wasn't a conversion, it was a pivot. He would go home and sell himself as the man who saved order by reforming it. Politics is also a ledger. The vote passed by more than anyone predicted and less than it deserved. Cheering on the floor, weeping in the balconies, 1,000 streams of relief, rage, relief again. Or struck the old stones with a ceremonial mallet and felt, for the first time in an epoch, hope that did not taste like compromise. On Earth, the assembly lifted ration caps one notch and announced something no pollster had modeled, a holiday. Not for victory. For maintenance. People went outside and fixed things: park benches, storm drains, software. The poet wrote a line that survived editing: mercy is a machine that needs oil. Blue kiosks sprouted like modular flowers, in port corners, under temple eaves, beside card tables where old men taught kids to cheat at nothing that mattered. Contracts got shorter. Fewer people bled in warehouses. Some lenders folded. Others adapted and discovered an odd thing: transparent profit felt clean. Ivek took his child to a clinic that didn't lasso toddlers to their grandparents' accounts. He cried without shame when the nurse stamped paid over a past due slate with a blue ink he would recognize in a dream 50 years from now. Roel walked into a room without cameras and let his shoulders fall. The quiet accounts had cost him friends and a kind of innocence. He had fewer dinners and more sleep. Elder Orr found Linon on a station garden path where alien vines braided themselves around steel rails. "You used a ledger like a scalpel," the elder said. "We feared your knives. We should have feared your arithmetic." "We feared our knives too," Linon said. "That's why we learned to count." "Will it last?" Orr asked, the ritual question of the old. "It will wobble," she said. "It will rust. People will forget. Then someone will ring a bell again." They stood, listening. No bell at that moment. Just the ordinary noise of a place where children ran and someone argued about figs. Linon went home to Earth and to the ocean she'd left for vacuum. Her father was on the porch with 2 bowls and the habit of saving the better spoon. He looked at her, at the tide, at the news ribbon scrolling a list of systems ratifying the compact. "You done?" he asked. "No," she said, smiling. "But I can eat." He slid the better spoon across. "Eat?" In a museum corner, the first blue kiosk sat behind glass with a sign that didn't thank any one species. It thanked a decision: when we could have chosen domination, we chose design. The plaque was already smudged with fingerprints. The elders kept their vigil but eased their grip. The council replaced edicts with norms and teeth with rails. The ledger didn't die. It evolved. And somewhere, on a quiet cargo deck under a yellow star, a small bell waited for the next hand that would need to ring it softly, stubbornly, as if reminding the galaxy of something simple and hard. Justice is a balance. Mercy is the hand that steadies the scale.